Arstark, and I am an art consultant and curator based in New York. And I'm so happy to be here today with Carole Feuerman on behalf of Chase Contemporary New York. With a very successful career that spans 4 decades, Carole Feuerman is one of the leading hyperrealist sculptors in the world and one of the only women in the genre. She was a pioneer in the movement in the 1970s, along with Dwayne Hansen and John DeAndrea, and her sculpture has been exhibited in countless solo and group exhibitions throughout the world, including those at the National Portrait Gallery, the State Hermitage Museum, Palazzo Strozzi Foundation, the Venice Biennale, and others. She's had 6 museum retrospectives to date, is the subject of 4 major monographs, has won numerous awards, and is represented in public and private collections all over the world, including those of President and Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton, the Richard R. Weissman Art Foundation, Dr. Henry Kissinger, the Mikhail Gorbachev Art Foundation, the State Hermitage, Grounds for Sculpture in Trenton, New Jersey, the Bass Museum in Miami, Florida, and the Malcolm Forbes Magazine collection, to name just a few. I just had to say all of that because she's such an accomplished and amazing woman and artist. And she is a superstar of international proportions. So, and I wanted to give that background for detail. And anyone who has seen Carole Feuerman's sculpture in person is immediately struck by how real they look and how they emanate a life force. Actually, I thought we could just start off with showing a few images from a few recent shows, including Chase Contemporary, where you had a show last year, solo exhibition. And here we are with your sculpture, Kendall. And whoops, can you see all of these? That's just to give you some idea. And then unbelievable, Carole had 9 sculptures along the Champs-Élysées in Paris, also last year, which is remarkable. And I can't even imagine what that must be like to be walking along the streets in Paris and see your work. Okay, so, and then if you happen to be in Venice during the 2017 Venice Biennale, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Again, there was an incredible solo exhibition of her work with how many? About 9?
About 13.
13 monumental outdoor sculptures. Anyway, just to give you an overview of her work. Carole, as one of the founders of hyperrealism, can you please define that?
Thank you very much for inviting me here, Drew. Hyperrealism is it grew out of photorealism, which was paintings. Hyperrealism was when a sculptor took things to another level, and with me, I got personal. You make it like I made sculptures that you'd think there was a person in the room. They were so real. And when I took it to a personal level, each sculpture was not just a swimmer, but they represented some of my feelings that I've gone through in life, like survival or perseverance.
Actually, I'm just curious. Do you know why you're a hyperrealist sculptor? Do you know why that appeals to you so much?
That's a very good question. You know, you're the curator, so you probably know more about me than I know about me. But I always like realism, and realism was a genre that, through the ages, people have always did that. You know, realism from John Singer Sargent, Rembrandt, and some of my heroes. But hyperrealism is more of a contemporary thing where, and it's sculpture. So I like things that are like super real, and I just like that. And I find it a very good venue to explore a piece um, and to speak about things I can't say in person. My work speaks for me.
I mean, I was just thinking about what that was like in the 1970s, when, minimalism was what was the uh, champion movement of the day. And here you were with Dwayne Hansen and John DeAndrea forging this style. And obviously you have a formal training.
Not really.
Not really.
I didn't study sculpture.
Okay.
But speaking of the 70s, minimalism, then expressionism, and then also you had to be a man. Women, the galleries didn't take us seriously. They didn't want to invest in a show, which is very expensive for a gallery to do because women have children, get married, and they never thought women would take their careers seriously. So it was very hard to get started. Not only was it hard, but I can recall a very an interesting story that I never really told anyone. So this is something that you made me think of. I was not trained as a sculptor, and I wanted to do this hyperrealism sculpture. And I went to art studio of Ben Bianchi, who actually posed for the man on the ladder, the artist on the ladder for Dwayne Hansen. And he he taught me how to use resins and how to do the castings. And when it came to critiquing my work, he invited another artist, another man, to critique it. And it was very, very hush-hush, like, don't tell anybody we help you. Because they didn't want to get known in the art world for actually helping a woman. So you just reminded me of that story. I took my work and I put it in the trunk of my car, and they came out of their studio and they looked at it, and then they slammed the trunk down, and they never thought that I would ever make it. I was never encouraged. But that's the 70s. To the point that I almost changed my name to a man's name just to get ahead.
Wow. And as I said, you are one of the only women hyperrealist sculptors, right? In the world.
There's Patricia Puccini, but she doesn't. She's a hyperrealist, but she doesn't really do the same type.
It's not figurative
it's
in the way.
No, it's more like unusual animals and things like that. There's really nobody. And there's no one who does the pieces for outdoors in lacquers.
Okay. All right. So the other question I have, because I know everyone wants to know, what inspires you to make the sculptures you do? And why swimmers? And why are they mostly women?
Well, what inspires me, it's not about an inspiration so much as a means of communication. Like, I had a very difficult first half of my life. I was never, my parents didn't encourage me. They discouraged me. They wouldn't pay for my art career. I couldn't get into a gallery. There were a lot of real difficulties. And through everything, I was able to survive and try to keep a balance and to persevere. And that's why the sculptures, each one, like this is Balance over here, and this is Survival of Serena. And these are my stories. So why are they swimmers? The figurative art helps me tell a story. It's my way of communicating. I don't communicate through abstract art. I don't communicate through like Joel Shapiro's, metal posts. It's not, for me, I really can communicate through people because I love people and I love to do sculptures of people. And I'm a woman's woman. You asked about women. I I think when all the curators start to say you only do women, you're known for doing women, I got a little rebellious, and I started to do a sculpture of a friend of mine, Rich Newsaleese, who's doing this podcast with us today, and he posed for the Golden Mean.
Well, yes, and I was going to get to that because you indeed do not do sculptures of only women. That's absolutely true. I was going to get to that.
Okay.
So the question is, so when you first started out, I would say they were more traditional sculptures, subject matter, sort of along the lines of Dwayne Hansen in a way, everyday people.
Actually, I started with erotic art.
Okay. All right. You started with erotic art. I remember that story. That's true. But my point is, or where I'm going with this is, when did you know? When did that first swimmer happen? When was that moment?
That was a moment. That was a moment that changed my life. I was an illustrator to get through college. And a friend of mine, her father paid for my college. I did album covers for him. And I was sitting on the beach, which I love, swimming in the beach. I don't actually love swimming.
I love that.
But I love it. I'm
sure everyone appreciates this.
And I had 3 children. They were little. And I was very unhappily married, and I was thinking of getting a divorce. So I went to the beach, and my kids were playing, and I'm sitting on the beach, and I see this girl, and she looked a little older than me, and she was coming out of the water, but she had her head held high, and she looked like she was so confident and she could do anything. And I thought at that moment, I'm going to do a sculpture of a woman like her, of a swimmer and a fragment, because I started with fragments. And that woman I identified with her like she was me. And I did my first swimmer. I started it in 1979. I finished it in 1981. And that's how I started doing swimmers. And I did my first swimmer, and I put water drops on it, which I'm known for. Nobody else does that. And Malcolm Forbes bought my first show, and he bought this one-of-a-kind swimmer, and he sent it to Fiji Island. I'm thinking, oh, my God, now I came up with something. Nobody's ever going to see it. It's buried away on Fiji Island, so I had to do more swimmers.
Wow.
So, like I was saying, like everything has a story. Everything grew out of my life. My parents had a timeshare in Key West, and we'd go down to Key West, and also it was the early 80s. And in Key West, in the late 70s and 80s, we had this Cuba. Immigrants were floating on inner tubes in from Cuba and on rafts, and I was so moved by brave women who were floating on rafts to save their life that I did the survival of Serena, and that was
which is one of your best known and most important sculptures.
I think it is, yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that everyone has a story.
Yeah.
And the titles are also amazing. Everything is so meaningful.
Well, anybody can make a copy of something, and people ask me, what's the difference between your work and a mannequin? Well, a mannequin doesn't tell a story. They're selling something. I think with my work, if it's a story and if it has meaning, then someone can identify with it. And that's what it's all about. It's about meaning.
But it's beyond that. They are imbued with a life force. I mean, they're absolutely incredible. And I wonder how you do that. That's what makes you you. But I also, they're also so peaceful and meditative, and how autobiographical are they?
They're very autobiographical, and I think meditation really helped me in my life because I got to a point where I needed inner direction. And the only way I was able to understand myself and know where I was going was to take time every morning by myself and try to think about what I wanted to accomplish, what I've done, and where I want to go. And every morning I would talk to myself in a very quiet way, and it was my own type of meditation.
So it wasn't a formal,
No, it wasn't like
TM.
yeah, whoo, it was
So
nothing.
this was just something you came to by yourself.
Yeah, that I had to have quiet time where I thought about what I wanted to do and what I wanted to say. And I saw it clearly, like I saw the girl coming out of the water, but you have to have the quiet moment with your eyes closed. And that's why I did Eyes Open.
That's a new piece you're talking about. Wow. So I referred to some of the titles. Obviously, this is Survival of Serena. Another one that I wanted to show was Quan.
Yeah, you have a monumental Quan from the Chase show.
Exactly. But isn't there a better picture of it as well?
Yeah, there should be. Let me just see if there's.
Anyway, we can show that later, perhaps. But it's a woman balancing on a sphere. Yeah, here we go. And the other thing about Carole is, you mostly did life-size sculptures until I guess you were asked to participate in a Venice Biennale. And is that when you first went big?
Yeah. Go big or go home.
Yeah, that was the story, right?
Yeah, well, I got this wonderful opportunity by John Spike, and he curated a show in 2017, I think it was, Venice Biennale. It might have been before. So anyway, he said to me, I can get 2 sculptures at the entrance to the Biennale, one on one side and one on the other, but they can't be little because if the pyramids were little, no one would go to Egypt. So I want them really big. And in those days, it's like, and then he gave me like 8 months. That it was impossible. I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to do it. But how am I going to do it? I only had one assistant. I had to carve it out of foam. I had to make it monumental. I had to make it like 12 feet, make Serena 12 feet long. And he knew exactly which ones. He wanted Serena and he wanted Catalina, the first swimmer, and the inner tube. And I found a company in California that would blow it up in foam and then send it to me. But, in those days, I didn't know how to I didn't know how to paint it for outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to work in epoxy. It was all a first. And, I didn't learn it in school. Nobody was there to show me. But, I worked night and day and it got done. And it was the beginning. And
I have to say that was a game changer for you and your work because it opened up, obviously a whole realm of public sculpture, large outdoor sculpture. Collectors have them in the most amazing places. I had wanted to show pictures of this Brookwood beach ball in Greece.
Oh, that is fabulous. Yeah. The one where she's wearing a mask.
Yes. And then the most beautiful picture of Kendall. I don't know who has that. It's someone in Switzerland and it has snow.
Maluma has one. Oh, that was in Switzerland. And they put it out on the mountain.
Yes. And that is the sculpture Kendall, which Chase Contemporary actually has. Yes. Chase Contemporary has this sculpture at the moment. If you happen to go in the gallery, you can see that. And so, we did talk a little bit about the fact that you are rebellious and you started to do sculptures of men. And wow. You know, the first one, you hit it out of the park. That was the Golden Mean,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the most brilliant sculptures. It's a bronze. That's the other thing about Carole's work. Okay, so she works in many different materials. She's best known for the cast resin that she paints. Carole is a painter
Yes.
as well as
I
a
was trained.
sculptor.
Right. I was trained as a painter.
Okay. And again, if you see her work in person, it is scary. Seriously. You know, people come up to them and they are waiting for their eyes to open because most of them, I guess all of them, have
Most.
closed eyes. And frankly, when I showed your work at a gallery, in a large outdoor sculpture of survival of Serena, what was the size? It's
12 feet.
12 feet.
You mean-
People would come into the courtyard and they would marvel at this sculpture. And people would say the most ridiculous things like, is she real?
Yeah, can you imagine?
It was,
It was so ridiculous because they're so big. And somebody would say, they look at this 12-foot sculpture and say, that's a real girl.
yeah, it was.
It's a full your eye.
It was just so amazing. You know, this illusion and the illusion that
I
you
love that.
create. I know, me too. And obviously with the life-size sculptures all the time. People,
Well, yeah.
people think they're real.
Those
And
are more hyper-real, but at any rate, I always get a kick out of people looking at the very, very big ones and thinking that's a real person.
yeah,
Just
I know.
a giant.
I know. I know, like Gulliver Travels. So the men, the Golden Mean, that was a major endeavor. And it was also, I think it was the first, although you had worked with bronze before, you had done it in a different way. And this was the most incredible bronze sculpture of a diver. Has a gold cap. In fact, the person shooting this video was used as the model. He's right here. And where did that idea come from?
Well, you know, the Golden Mean is the perfect balance. So it's once again about balance. Michelangelo was a hero, and the Golden Mean is the perfect balance. If you lean too far one way, you'll fall over. So you have to be perfect in perfect balance. But the thing that made it different from all my work, and it wasn't the bronze, it was the fact that I didn't paint it hyperrealistically.
Right.
It's that I painted it black
Right.
with a gold leaf cap. And I remember when I did it, the museum liked it so much that they wanted it to be part of their show. And
Which museum?
it was, I'm trying to think, in Peekskill.
Oh, yes.
Livia Strauss had seen it
Yes.
at Manna.
Oh, right.
And she says, that has to be part of my show. And I said, Livia, I'm going to paint it realistically. And she said, I said, no, I don't, but maybe I shouldn't. I visualize it in black patina with the gold leaf. She says, do the black patina. And I would tell people I'm going to do that. And they said, oh, that's a mistake. You're known for the hyperreal. So once again, I was like, taking everything I was known for and saying, well, it doesn't matter because this is what I want to do. This is how I want to say it. And as it turned out, it was installed in Peekskill in Riverfront Green Park.
They bought it. The city of Peekskill.
They bought it. They had to apply for a grant. It's a very poor city.
Do we have a better picture of that one?
I don't know.
Okay. I have it on the streets of Paris, but it doesn't compare to how you can see it.
Riverfront Green.
From the train, if you are riding Metro North, it is in the park.
Yeah, Riverfront Green Park, right on the Hudson River.
Right on the Hudson.
Yeah.
And it is a masterpiece.
It's a monument to the city because everybody would assemble there and people would do handstands, and it's very Black and Ethiopian. And people, maybe because it was painted black, people identified more with it. But the city had to have it, and they didn't have the money. So they applied for a grant and they got it.
And then you also recently did an incredible sculpture called The Thinker.
Once again, Rich News-Lees had opposed me because when I did the Golden Mean, his face was down and nobody could see the beautiful face. So I did The Thinker. And it was my impression of The Thinker after Rodin.
Mm-hmm. Well, you will have to share an image of that because, again, that was actually in the show at Chase last year.
Yeah, The Thinker. Do we have one?
And the other thing is, people are fascinated with your process. And without giving too much away, I was wondering whether you can just speak a little bit about that, how you start. I guess do you look for, you have this idea and then you look for someone to... Go ahead with that. Tell me.
I have an idea of what I want to say.
Yeah.
Based on my own feelings, and then I look for someone who exemplifies those feelings, and then I pose them. And I used to put silicone all over them, but I don't do that now. I just do 3D photograph, and I work with a company blows it up, and I work with the foam, and I resculpt it.
So there's no latex covering the body?
Not anymore.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
But it does make good videos.
Yeah. And there's one of you're making of Kendall.
Yeah.
Which
I did that. I schmeared her.
I know that's a great video, which I want everyone to see.
Maluma bought that. Yeah, he bought Kendall out of a gallery in Texas. He called it his new girlfriend.
Well, he's very fortunate.
He
is indeed. The other thing about, first you went large, which again makes it possible to have these amazing pieces outdoors. And again, I think, you go through this learning process and I love how you just, dive into something and figure it out. And so tell me about the minis. Because I don't know, you don't like that word. I like changing to tabletop. Because not everyone can have a life-size sculpture or a monumental sculpture.
Right.
And, to be able to enjoy one of these smaller pieces is such a privilege.
Well, not everyone can afford a big piece either.
Of course.
But
even if you can, they like the little ones.
Everybody seems to like them.
Who wouldn't want a little one either?
Once again, I was told, "Oh, you're going to ruin your career. Don't do little ones. It's too."
Did someone actually say that to you?
Yes, many people. As a matter of fact, my publishers had said that, and they wouldn't put any of the small ones in my book, and they discouraged me so much that I never put it on my website. To this day, they're not on my website, but
the
tabletop size, no.
Okay.
But that's changing.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so. And the other thing about your work in particular is, although they are editions, mostly small editions.
Yes.
You usually make everything a little different.
Everyone is different.
Every single one is different. So in this instance, the miniature Serena, that first had a black inner tube and a
Right.
white cap. That was the classic. And then you started doing different colors, and then you started
In small editions, like this one
their
is
editions of 10,
10. Yes.
and and different caps. It's like you just keep taking an idea and growing with it and embellishing it, and just the creativity that just pours out of you is remarkable. I have to say, it is absolutely remarkable. I mean, having known you for a long time now, to just see how you just keep evolving, and you also did dancers recently.
Dancers, right?
Dancers.
I like to do what people say I can't do.
There you go. That probably came from your parents, right?
Fire and harmony. I think it might have.
Because they were not, you said they were not supportive.
Yeah,
So
fire and harmony.
Right. And then,
this is in Avenue George V and Champs-Élysées.
I still can't imagine what that must have been like to have those on the streets of Paris. I mean, I know you've had group shows in Asia. You've been in
Hong Kong.
everywhere.
This is Paris too. It was an umbrella show.
Wow. You've been in art fairs all over the entire world. Collectors all over the world now own your work. And how does that feel?
I have an extraordinary life.
Yes, you do.
I'm writing my autobiography now. And when I think of all the experiences I've had and all the wonderful places I've gone to and all the wonderful collectors and people I've met and models and fans, I have the best life.
You do. I agree with you. Your ambition and energy and success, it just all has, come together, and you're just flourishing all the time since I've known you. Continue to flourish. So what, this obviously a very strange time in the world.
Yeah.
Right now. And I'm just wondering how that has been for you, and has it affected your work, your process?
Yeah. The first 2 months of the pandemic, I stayed home, and I got depressed and bored, and I slept a lot, and I was thinking I could really go to the studio because there's nobody there anyway, and get in my car, drive there, pull into my studio. I have a garage space, and I did this sculpture called Eyes Open. And why Eyes Open? Her eyes are actually closed, and it's when you close your eyes and you go within, you can actually see more. It has to do with my meditation. Just like I said, I close my eyes, and all of a sudden I can see. And
do you still meditate, by the way?
Yeah.
Every morning?
Well,
maybe not every morning.
Not every morning anymore. But I do meditate a lot. I mean, I get up 5:36, but I have to have that quiet time. I do have alone time every morning.
You know what? I just wanted to also mention that this is a very important group exhibition that you are in right now.
Yes.
And
it's a hyperrealism exhibition.
It is, and it includes Maurizio Catalan, Ron Mueck,
Dwayne Hansen,
and it is hyperrealism sculpture, and where it's
been all over the world. It's gone to 8 different countries, about 8 museums in different countries.
Yeah.
It's traveling, and I have my first swimmer, Catalina, and then also the General's Daughter.
Which was, I know, was exhibited at the National Portrait Gallery.
Yes. And I had the great honor of, at this museum in Liège, Belgium, they made it the the banner, the huge banner when you walk into the museum.
And your image is there.
And there's been a book from every different museum has done their own book.
So that's I think very special. And what would you like what would you like people to know about your work?
Well, I like people to I want people to like my work, and I want them to get to know me, and I want to get to know them through my work. I want to encourage young people also and other artists not to give up and not to be affected by what people say and to follow their dreams.
And you actually have a foundation where you encourage that.
That's right.
And you support artists, which is very just so generous. So I guess I wanted to thank you so much for sharing so much about yourself and your sculpture and process. And I just encourage people to go to Chase Contemporary and see the work. There's a gallery on 10th Avenue, 231 10th Avenue and 520 West 23rd Street. And all over the world, you will see it. If you if you go to any art fair, you will see Carole Feuerman's work, and for that, we are very, very happy and proud.
Thank you, Dru.
Thank you.